Hey, well, welcome. This is Hobie 201. It's a graduate level course, so we've all assumed that you've managed your way through 101 and 102. And what inspired me to offer this course, and it's being offered actually for the first time, is that I've done I've had a lot of coaching, I've been into a lot of seminars, and I began to realize after last summer that there's a lot that I'm doing that isn't being talked about. And as I was going around a weather mark, I noticed Dan Borg was doing something that nobody had ever told me to do until about a year ago. And I've been sailing Hobies now for 30 some odd years, and no one ever told me this stuff. And if you don't know, you won't do it. So I decided to offer this up. Hopefully there's some great stuff in here that you can utilize. We're taping this. Hopefully that it'll go to the end. It's going to be a long tape, maybe, and we'll break it up. What I want you guys to try to do is just come away with one or two things today. And hopefully we'll have the tape that you can go back, and after you've matriculated those one or two things, you can watch the tape again, pick up another couple of items, and just keep doing that. And gradually build. You're not going to get it all in one sitting. So what we're not going to cover today is just sailing a Hobie. That's 101. That's going on next door. We're not going to talk about too much about the actual race course and what happens on the race course. That's in 102. In this course, I'm intending to take it to the next level. A lot of the intangibles, a lot of the stuff that, quite frankly, the little stuff. And what I've learned, I have some training in science, so you have to excuse me for that. But basically, if this is time and this is increments of knowledge, I guess I was thinking about this. It goes something like that. By that I mean, when you're early in your Hobie career, it doesn't take much to learn a big speed difference. In your first regatta or two, all of a sudden you learn how to tack or drive, and all of a sudden, it's magic. But after you've been sailing a few years, that's small. It might take you several years just to get a small little bit of advantage. And that's what we're going to talk about in 201. We're going to talk about how to accelerate this process so you don't have to take 32 years like some people did to find out, some of these things. I should back up and also say, I've never won a world championship. I've never won a national championship. I've been sailing Hobies for about 30 some odd years. And I've gotten a lot better over those years. And sometimes the best teachers aren't always the best sailors. Meaning, you talk to some of the top sailors, and I've done this. Well, how come? Why are you so fast? And, well, I don't know. I just kind of do what I do. And I've introspectively looked. And so this is what I'm offering up in a distilled format today. So we'll probably take a break mid-morning and then keep going. There's some bathrooms, I think, in the classroom next door in 101. Any questions so far? Okay. So, I was reading Sailing World article, and there was a gentleman in there in the back of the best parts are in the back, I think. A guy by the name of James Line, and I'll agree, I don't know him, and I also agree that for a sailor, that's a great name. My name's James Line. This guy coached four world championships in 2016. The TP52, the FAR 40, the Melges 32, and a fourth one that I can't remember. Fairly competitive classes. A lot of money on the line. This guy coached 4 world championships. I thought he probably knows what he's talking about in here. And this is what he said. Everybody knows how to sail upwind and downwind. but it's the aggregation of thousands of tiny gains, which individually wouldn't make a difference in a race, that collectively make a huge difference. In one design sailing, the difference is more pronounced. If you're 0.1% faster than the competition, you're guaranteed to win 80% of the races. If you're even just 1% faster, it's game over. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is those small little idiosyncrasies and nuances that can gain you that extra 1%, maybe even 0.1%. Now, I realize you may or may not be there yet in your sailing career, but hopefully with these notes, you'll be able to get there. That was profound when I read that, because I can remember 20 some odd years ago, and I'm taking shackles off my boat, and I didn't know why. I just knew that it was going to be lighter if I did, and I cut the tails off of excess line, and people would mock me and stuff like that, but I just kept doing it. And what I found was that I was winning the races. And that actually speaks more towards boat preparation, which we're going to get into here. Well, I guess we're into it now. That talks really into boat preparation, because in, I would say, 80% of the races, the race is won before the boats hit the water. It's because of the preparation that's gone on, the tasking on the boat, getting rid of that little shackle, going out and training with your partner is preparation. Just the nuances and not leaving anything undone, spending the time. You've heard the term time on the water. That is a big part. Training with my crew and I have trained countless hours out in Puget Sound. Let's do 20 tacks. All right, let's do 20 jibes. And you know this too. John knows this. It's just, you just pound it in, and you get repetition over and over and over. And if you look at any high-level athlete, it's particularly pronounced in a golfer, it's being able to repeat the motion over and over again that separates it. So it's in the preparation. And the easy part is the boat. You can spend all the time in the world with your boat in the driveway and just going over it and looking at new ways to make it just a little bit faster. Put it on a diet. Look at lines. Is there any way I can reduce my tram placing? Instead of using that big old half-inch, whatever, use some high-tech line that's strong and light. Stuff like that, all right? It's also, though, it's mental preparation. It's having the confidence. And sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. But it's having the confidence to say, I belong here. Maybe you will or maybe you won't win that regatta, but you have to have the confidence that you belong on that starting line and on that course. And you have to, as a skipper, it's incumbent on the skipper to instill that confidence in the crew, and it's incumbent on the crew to build that skipper up and build that confidence within the skipper. It's a team effort. If the crew is tearing the skipper down, it's the worst thing that can possibly happen, because we all have our own questions, our own inadequacies, and things like that. And so you want, as a crew, you want to build that skipper. Man, that was great. Keep it positive. And ditto on the skipper to the crew. If you're a skipper and you're yelling at your crew, you won't be yelling for long. All right? That should be pretty obvious. All right? It doesn't work. All right? I tried it. It doesn't work. And so it's a positive thing. Yeah, stuff happens, man. It's critical components, and a team gets stronger by getting through those difficulties. I get that. All right? So I understand how yelling can occur. If it's a regular part of the diet, you're not gonna succeed, and that's in life or boating. Boating has a lot of parallels with life, as I've come to learn. You're going to want to when you're driving to. So there's preparation which you can do right now in advance of the next regatta. As you're driving to that regatta, or in the week coming up to it, start asking yourself, how big could I expect that fleet to be? Who's going to be the major players there? What kind of conditions am I expected to have? Recognizing, of course, that on that score, whatever you expect probably won't happen. But, that's a lighter regatta. I mean, how many times, I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody come up to me and say, well, which way should I go? And I'm like, well, hit someone. And get practice at sailing slow and controlling your boat. Pull up next to a buoy. There's no boats around it. And just learn how to park next to that buoy. And now you'll understand how you can park next to some other boats. And that will gain you confidence on the start line. It will help you be relaxed and be a better starter. To this day, especially at the bigger events, when I'm in that 5-minute sequence, I still take 2 huge deep breaths. I can't tell you how relaxing that is. I'll be at about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. You can look over at my boat, and there I am, inhaling and exhaling, because I just need to be relaxed. And you're getting all amped up, just take it down, all right? And different people have different ways of doing that. For me, I have found the deep breaths work. Have fun. Don't take this so seriously. I'm looking over here because I have a bunch. Learn to have fun, all right? Put that race, put that regatta in the context of your whole life. And I was out in Bear Lake at a North Americans, and I was sailing with my wife, who doesn't sail that much. We weren't doing well in the regatta. We were doing a lot worse than I expected. You go into these regattas expecting a certain level of performance, and I can tell you about 50% of the time you do better than you expected, about 50% you do worse. But anyhow, I had certain expectations, and we weren't meeting those expectations. But in this one race, we had pulled out the luck of the draw, and we rounded that weather mark in maybe 10th or 13th at a nationals. It was like, wow, this is really good. This is about 20 years ago. Like, oh my God. And we're on this beam reach. And I'm just having a kick-ass time. I am just, and I'm sheeting on. My wife, who's not used to sailing, she's on the trampoline and she's going, we weren't married at the time, my future wife, and I was going to propose to her, or I did propose to her at that event, so she wasn't my future wife, she was my fiancée at the time, and she's on the trampoline, she's going, make it stop, make it stop, and there I am, I'm barreling along in Mach 5, and I've got to make a snap decision, do I want to lose the race, or do I want to lose my wife, It didn't take me long, and I'm happily married to this day. And I'll tell you how we finished in that race. But you got to take care of your crew, but you also have to put this whole thing in perspective and make sure you have fun. All right. And I continue to learn that to that day. And then you got to dance with who brung you, and that means that we all had bad days. So it's a team effort, and it's okay for the team member to have a bad day, and you don't yell at them because of it. And it's very enriching. Okay. Something else that we've done, my crew and I have done, Laura Sullivan's my crew, we've been sailing together, I don't know, long enough to know better, 15 years? Right. We've done this, I don't know if we've done it every year, we did for several years in the beginning, and that is to list your 3 strengths and your 3 weaknesses. What are your 3 strengths and what are your 3 weaknesses? And this helps you to evaluate where the team is. Okay, and you just write them down separately. Be honest, and then share them, and then build a strategy around those weaknesses and strengths. Accept your crew's weaknesses and their strengths. It's easy to accept their strengths, accept their weaknesses too. Recognize, we're not all perfect. I'm going to share with you my 3 strengths and weaknesses, so you get an idea of kind of the stuff that I'm talking about. My 3 strengths is, one is I love to start. I just love starts. I will sit there and I go on YouTube and I just love watching starts and my own starts and everything else. And it turns out that if you love to do something, you're probably going to be pretty good at it. And it turns out I'm a really good starter. I just have to figure out the rest of the race course. All right. And so there's a tip there that if you're not a good starter, it may be because you're scared or intimidated or you don't like it. And you just have to, and so you have to be introspective and learn why that is. I think I'm a pretty good tactician. All right? I think I can figure my way around the course pretty good. I make mistakes. We all do. But I think I'm definitely above average on that level. And I think I'm physically strong. I figure I'm stronger than most of the people out there. And I can use that to my advantage. And it's okay to admit those things. I'm not trying to be pompous about it. I'm just, okay, this is what I can do. Because I also know that I got 3 weaknesses. Actually, probably have more than that, but I'm only going to list 3. One is that I'm an emotional person. And I have to learn to control those emotions on the race course. All right? And I've gotten better at it. Still working on it. Another one is I have poor eyesight. So I don't know where that weather mark is. It's up there and over there somewhere. I don't know. But it's over there. So I have to rely on my crew for that. And the other is that I don't follow my instincts nearly enough. I've been sailing for a long time. I think of myself as a good sailor instinctually, but sometimes I get distracted. I'm looking at the leeward hull. I got all these bad habits. But those are just some examples. Some of them are physical. There's one more area I want to talk about, and that talks about actually one of my weaknesses, the instinctual part. There's a couple ways to sail sailboats. And on big boats, as Johnny Hope knows, you can sail by the instruments. Man, you just glued right into those instruments and you're just sailing totally by them. Or, as my papa used to say, you can just sail by the seat of your pants. Just kind of, oh yeah, I'm in the groove now, baby. All right. You really kind of need, the best approach, I think, personally, is a balance. It's a combination of those. Now, on a Hobie Cat, we don't have B&G or Raymarine electronics. We are allowed now to have a tactic. But we don't have electronics. But we do have telltales. And if they're well placed, they're good. And we have other technical things that we can look at, how we're doing compared to other boats. And then there's just the gut feel, how things feel. On a Hobie Cat, it tends to balance more towards the gut feel because there are fewer electronics, current, speed over ground, course over ground. We just don't have that on a Hobie, but we can use a lot of the technical signs out there. Another technical sign might be which way is the smoke blowing off of that chimney, or how fast. So there are other things that you can use. I learned a long time ago. There's a great guy. Laura hates him. I love him. His name is Stuart Walker. He's really difficult to read, and I absolutely love his writing. And Stuart, I think it was Stuart, has broken winning into 3 things. The first is boat speed. The second is crew work. And the third is tactics or strategy. we're going to break these three down. And it actually, in terms of, in that sailing world, there was another article the following month issue. And it talked about, can we close that door by any chance? Thanks, Paul. And in that article, this guy was talking about, he's a world champion in the J24, actually sailed against his son a couple of times. And what he likes to do with his crew, and we're adopting this on our team also, is to say, well, I wonder what kind of day is it going to be today? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, is it going to be high wind? Do we expect it to be low wind? Do we expect the wind to shift? Is there current? Let's talk about what kind of day is it going to be. And it's interesting because, I don't know, I'm taking a little bit of a detour here on my notes. I don't know if I want to go into this or not. I think I'll save it. I'm going to come back to that. But we're going to talk first about boat speed. This goes back to the preparation. 80-90% of your boat speed is done before you hit the water. There's only a few adjustments once you get on the water. Downhaul, outhaul, mass rotation maybe. It's all done by the time you hit the water. And really, if 90% of it is before you hit the water, then 87% of it is before you hit the beach. Right? So once you get on the water and you find out you're the slow boat, because I've been here and done this, you're not going to make your boat any faster. So stop getting frustrated over how slow you are and concentrate on what you can control, on what does matter. All right? And then vow to look up the people who are fast in that fleet to find out how you can make your boat faster for the next day or the next race or the next regatta. But while you're on the water, I can't tell you how many times, and you're sitting there, oh man, I sure am slow. Well, now there's a real fast thought. Instead of, all right, which way do I need to go? These guys are a lot faster, but I think the fastest way around the course is da-da-da. In boat speed, the devil is in the details. When you get to that part of the curve especially, it's all a matter. If I could put a theme to today's discussion class, is Hobie caddying is a game of inches. You might win or lose a race by boat lengths, but it's because there's a microcosm, a combination of inches of gain. Going back to that opening quote from what was his name? John Lyon, I think it was. And which everybody knows how to sell, but it's the aggregation of thousands of tiny gains, which individually wouldn't make a difference in a race, that collectively make a huge difference. If I can gain 2 or 3 inches on every puff or every lull, I can gain 2 or 3 boat lengths by the time I get to the weather model. Do you understand what I mean? If I can get 2 or 3 inches out on you at the start line, it's game over. It is game over. Likewise, if you get a couple inches on me, well, I'm going to give you my run for it. It's a small aggregation. Last year, Laura and I had the opportunity to sail down to Guatemala, travel down to Guatemala, and train with Jason Hess. Jason, at the time we did that, was ranked 3rd or 5th in the world in the Hobie 16. And he had a coach, Emiliano. And I'm down there training with Jason and Emiliano and some other sailors. And Emiliano said, Peter, or maybe it was Jason, get your crew 8 together. Always be together. And I cannot tell you what a difference that made. Here's your standard Hobie trampoline, all right? And I'll just, excuse my drawing. I can't tell you how many times I see crew trapped out like that. Or they're sailing downwind, the skipper's over here, and there's the crew down there on the leeward side. If this was, something like that. It doesn't work that way, you guys. There's yawing that goes on. And while you're there, while you're doing that, Laura and I are sailing right here. And we're balancing our way. Or we're trapped out right there. There's only one exception to this. Only one. And there's always exceptions, right? Only one. In 4 knots or less of speed, the crew downwind will need to go to the leeward hull to hold the gibbet. But that is the only time you are to be away from them. All other times you are together. If you watch some of the Olympic crews trapping out, they actually will have their legs intertwined, where the rear leg of the hull of the crew will be behind the front leg of the skipper. They get coached quite a bit, those Olympic athletes. What do you think is important? You think it's better that way or with your crew way out there? All right? It's not going to work, all right? It's really critical. And as a corollary to all this, when we're racing and we see a big hit the pin, we got a lucky start, hit the pin, got the pin, start, brand new boat. We had just glued it. I mean, this thing was, it was our first regatta. We had a competitor off our weather hip, and sure enough, there's this powerboat wake. And it was a big wake. I told the Lord, I said, look back at our competitor. Okay, watch this. And we went through the wake, and I'm not even sure we moved back, but I knew that my boat we had just glued it, it was stiff, and I knew that other boat wasn't. And we went through the wake, and when she looked back again, we were like, it wasn't just inches, guys, it was like 2 boat lengths. I mean, it was huge. Well, the same is true on crew. And so we might be sailing in a really light breeze, usually upwind. I'm not going to get too technical here, but usually if this is where the shrouds are and here's your mast, well, I guess actually going upwind in light breeze, if these are where your shrouds are and the mast. In salt water, I differentiate stuff between salt water and fresh water. Okay, hold on. Yeah, Laura.
This guy. We just had 5 more people show up for registration. I have to do it now. But how are we on sandwiches?
The importance of it.
So I differentiate between salt water and fresh water. And the reason is it's typically fresh water is flat. And typically salt water is usually an open body of water and it's lumpy. Okay. Now, you get out of Lake Washington on a weekend and you're in fresh water and it's lumpy. All right. But as a general rule, so in salt water, we are typically right next to each other and usually right at the shrouds. Because we want to reduce that pitching, that yawing. But sometimes if we're far forward because we're sailing downwind, and as soon as that wake comes, we're always in this area when wake comes. Because that's where your center of gravity is on a boat. Anything you want to add in on this, John, so far?
No, I think your point's really good. I didn't race last weekend, so I got to watch a lot of the racing, and I saw a big discrepancy on crew. It's very obvious when you're off a boat watching races, seeing crews apart, and then seeing crews that are together. And it looks right when they're together, and it looks really weird when they're separated. And I noticed it last weekend. And the boats that were usually leading crews were close, all the way around.
It really is important. These are very weight sensitive boats. So, I didn't talk about this. These boats are also weight sensitive. So being at or near minimum weight is important. One thing I'm finding out though it's not just the crew weight, it's your gear weight. If it's a light air day, I am leaving my full harness on the beach now and going out with just a little butt bucket. I leave my 3-pound booties, and that doesn't include when they get wet. They're probably 5 pounds at that point. I don't wear those now unless it's blowing the oysters off the rocks. And then I need the protection. And then it really doesn't matter how much you take out there anyhow. It's about how much crew weight are you taking out there. I watched Jason S., who I referred to earlier. He had one water bottle that he was taking out on him, and he had built a special preparation. He had specially prepared a special place for that water bottle under his trampoline seat, so it wouldn't interfere with his sailing. Out the center of gravity, it's the details. It's those minor details that make that difference. Let's get into some rigging tips. This probably does cross over to 102 a little bit. Mast rate, we all talk about it. It's pretty important. We're finding, if you don't know what I'm talking about, see me afterwards, but on the Hobie 16, there's now been a fairly standard way of adopting a measurement system for measuring mast rate. We're finding that if you're at or near minimum mast rate, you want to be in the kind of the low 20s, typically. There might be times when you need to power that up and be in the upper teens, but generally speaking, we're running about 22, 23 mast rate. The Hobie 16, it's confounded me for all these decades, because there's only 3 strings to pull on the dang thing. It's like, how can this be? How can it be such a complicated boat when it's so simple? It's a lot of it's also got to do with rig tension. How much rig tension do you have? The jib halyard. It determines your rig tension. How much are you putting on there? Generally speaking, I say this with trepidation, a tighter rig will be better than a looser rig, but there's a lot of exceptions to that. But generally speaking, a tighter rig will transfer the lift from the sails to the hulls. Okay. But you can have it too tight, and now the boat feels what I call bound up, and it's slow. You can have it too loose, and it's just sloppy as heck. And what I have learned, as a general rule, that if it's light air, I can usually get by with fairly light rig tension, and if it's heavy air, I need that thing on boat and tight, and when it's medium air, it's somewhere in between. Does that make sense? I mean, the stronger the breeze, the more pressure there's going to be on it, so the more you need to really have the rig tighter. And the lighter the breeze, the more you want the boat to breathe and give it a chance to really absorb and move that energy. Good? Do you agree with that, John?
The only thing I'd add is in big breeze, there's been times where if the boat's overpowered, I'll let a little of the jib halyard off. I'll free it up to give me a little more mast rate, which depowers the boat more.
Yes.
And that can be effective. And that's when it's blowing. That's
right. When it's blowing the oysters off the rocks,
yeah.
and you're out of control, you can that's great, because you can loosen that jib halyard. It blows off the top of your main, which is where most of that riding moment is. And so it'll take a lot of that riding moment away and just depower you. So it's a depowering technique. Again, after you're double trapped and after you've been traveling down a couple of 3 inches and it's white knuckle sailing, it's scary. Take a couple inches off that halyard. Maybe it's a little slower certain periods of time. You'll be a lot faster than the people that are flipped over that you're going past.
And then also just, if your boat doesn't, you made a great point, if your boat's not going well, something's off. And it's probably the jib halyard. You're right. And if you're in light medium conditions and the boat just doesn't seem like it's going and it's really tight, take half an inch off. Not 2 inches, just a little bit. It doesn't take much. And the boat will feel better. And the mast will rotate easier. There's a lot of things that happen in that, right?
And if your mast is what we call counter rotating, you sheet on and go to weather, and your mast is over rotating, you're way over. You've got way too much halyard on.
Or down.
Or down.
Yeah.
That's
that
down.
can do it too. Yeah.
Because I was in Australia, and that's what it was. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
If you bring that down haul on super tight, then yeah, it'll counter.
Because a lot of the rake that Peter's talking about, that's extreme rake for a 16. And 10 years ago, we were never at 22 or 23. And if you don't know what that means, talk to us later. But it's marks on your halyard. But the downhaul, like Will and Josh last weekend, they came over and asked me, the mast was bent so bad. And I looked over and they had their downhaul cranked all the way down on the beach. I mean, all the way down the black band. And I commented, I said, why is this so tight? Because with the mast being raked so far back now, a lot of these 16s, you can't bring the boom all the way down to the black band or you don't have any main sheet tension. So we're sailing with wrinkles. You're leaving that downhaul loose. And the boat's doing just fine.
Yeah.
So just a little bit snug.
Yeah. And I don't know if we don't talk about it now, we'll talk about it right now. Generally speaking, my understanding is you only really need an inch and a half difference. You have one setting, and then when it blows the oysters off the rocks or the dogs off the chains, then you bring more downhaul on in the really heavy. Bringing more downhaul on depowers your rig. Just keep that in mind. You want to, in flat water, you don't need a lot of power. And in choppy water, you need a lot of power to get through that chop. And I liken it to an 18-wheeler. One that's heavily loaded and one that's just deadheaded and empty and going back for another load. And in flat water, you want to be that empty 18-wheeler. You don't need a lot of power. And that 18-wheeler will hit a top end. It'll go a lot faster than one that's fully loaded until, a certain point. And on a Hobie, trying to draw that analogy, and this is true if you have a heavy crew weight, you're like, a fully loaded 18-wheeler. You need that power to get through, but it will also carry you. So a light crew, they might get stopped by some power boat wake, and you'll be able to just carry that momentum through. But basically, in salt water, you want more power than you do, and there's a lot of different ways to gain that power. You can do it in the sail plan with your batten tension, the downhaul, less downhaul, mast rake, less mast rake. There's different ways that you can achieve that extra. But for the most part, we don't change our just so you know, we don't change our mast rake whether we're in salt water or fresh water. So that's one that we don't change, but we will make other adjustments, and we may get into that in a little bit. Oh, we're going to get into it right now. Batten tension, for 25 years, I didn't change batten tension. Now, I make minor variations. You want to get really good at looking at your sail. And what I recommend is you stand at the base of your mast with your mainsail up, downhaul on, and just sheet your main in and out. When it's centered, and just look up and just see how that shape changes and get to know it. Let that become your best friend. And just see how that shape changes. And you'll get a better understanding of because that's your motor, man. That's your Ferrari to it. And get good at looking at it. Look at other people's. Look at people who are at the front of the fleet. Look at what they're on the beach. Look at their batten tension or their sail shape. Look at yours. Then look at other people's and become a pro at your sail shape. That's why sailmakers are usually asked to come on boats because they're pros at it. There's a reason. In really heavy air, I saw a guy out of Lewis, Delaware, Mark Moneman, about 2 years ago at a North Americans. They needed to do a videotape for a promo. And it wasn't blowing the ices off the rocks. It was blowing the rocks off the rocks. It was mooking out there. And none of us were excited about it. But Mark and Rich McVeigh had already agreed to go out because Gary Jobson had a film crew there.
So they went out. I mean, this thing, it was blowing 30. If it wasn't blowing, and these guys, and I watched Mark Moderman. Well, he's from South Africa, and they don't go out unless it's at least 25. You know, I mean, it's just a light air day if it's not blowing, you know, less than 20. And I watched Moderman set up his boat, and it was really telling. I mean, he was putting just the slightest amount of tension in, and it was just enough that he wouldn't rip his sails, whatever he wanted, the flattest sail possible. I took notes. I took copious notes. I don't have them here. I can tell you sometime if you sail in a place with like nukes like that. But the bottom line is that bad intention does make a difference. You want to set it up. I would recommend setting it up the same 99% of the time, 98% of the time. I make small variations. When it's nuking out there, I will lighten up the top two battens because there isn't much sail area up there anyhow. And that's the biggest riding moment because it's really far away and it's going to tip you over. So we will lighten up those top two battens a little lighter when we're expecting it to be double trapped, overpowered, double trapped, and then some. Anything less than that, I usually set it up the same. Sometimes in salt water, I might squeeze it on just a skosh more. And I mean just a skosh. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. And you want to get good at what that is, you can even mark them. I have and I do. This is a controversial one. This next topic. I talked about one of my strengths being strong. I personally don't believe that I do this because, and I can do this because I am strong. But this is, I don't cleat my main sheet at all, ever. All right, there's a few exceptions. Rarely do I ever upwind or downwind. And people say, "Oh, I can't hold it." You'll be surprised if you roll your 6-to-1 Harkin blocks up. At the bottom of your cam cleat, there is a bail, and when the line comes out of the block and goes over that bail is a sharp edge, and it's actually really good at taking the pressure off of a main sheet. And I don't even notice it. All right. What that allows me to do is to play the sheet constantly. It's a game of inches, you guys. In the low, I'm down a couple inches. On that puff, I'm squeezing it on a couple of inches. And just those minor variations, they're going to gain me 2 or 3 inches over people who aren't playing the main sheet upwind. Make sense? So, for me, it's fun. I love doing it. Now, I mean, if you don't want to, you can just clean it off and have fun and just upwind, and that's cool. But I like seeing if I can max it out, and I just like those little variations and stuff like that. When we're trapped out, this is a good tip. Say it's double trapped, and now you're getting into an overpowered situation. If you're not block to block, when you're double trapped, you have the boat rigged wrong, or you have an old boat. But anymore, we're block to block, double trapped. Key point there. Now, let's say you have to, and we will travel out. Well, we travel out more than we should. We should really only travel out once or twice on an upwind leg, but we do it on puffs now. But here's a training tip, that a little secret that I don't know if anybody else is doing or not. My crew holds the traveler, and I hold the main sheet. And when a puff hits, I'll say down 2. I don't say down. She doesn't know how much I want it down. I'll go down 2. It means down 2 inches. We worked out this communication system. Well, in the old days, she'd be sitting there and she'd be doing one of these, trying to uncleat the darn main traveler because it's fully loaded up. I've got my main sheet on and it's fully cleated. When I say down 2, I'm pulling on that main sheet. And what that does is it pulls the traveler up enough to unload the traveler cam cleat so the crew can just go boop. You go, and then, so I go down 2. I bring it on, and remember, it's block to block. And the traveler doesn't really move. We're centered, probably, or it's heavily loaded. But I'm taking the pressure off of it enough that she can go boop. And when I see her go boop like that, then I let down 2. Because I'm still block to block, and otherwise she's trying to let it out, and I'm holding it up. So I go, down 2, I pull, down 2, and then I pull again, so she can get that sheet down into the cleat again. It works great. It's really cool when you get it down. You feel like $1 million even if you aren't doing so well. The other thing is trapeze height. I want to talk about trap and axle. Most people are doing what I did for the first 10 or 20 years. And that is they're going out on the wire like a sack of potatoes. Clunk, and they just sit there. All right? And isn't it great? It is. Hobie cats are fantastic. Being out on the wire, there's nothing like it. But you want to be active and dynamic. When the lull hits, I call it scooch hiking, we come in. The puff hits, we're bonus hiking. We can't do that all the time. That's hard on the back. So I only have my crew do it at the start for the first 30 to 45 seconds and at the leeward gate if there's boats around. And then it's just leaning out. And it's not just leaning out, you're pulling the boat down. You got to pull on it, man. It's an active. It's not a passive deal. It's not something where you're just a sack of potatoes. That's a passive deal. It's an active pulling the boat down and keeping it flat. And then when that lull hits, you're constantly in and out. I watch YouTube videos all the time. YouTube, if you ever get bored, I don't have television, so sometimes I get bored. I YouTube medal races or sailing medal races or sailing World Cup. I just watch video. I do this stuff all the time, and it's great. And you watch these guys. And at the Olympic level, we're not all Olympians, I get that. These guys are moving just one leg at a time. These guys have been coached for 4 years, and they're just making small adjustments. Well, they can do that. Why can't we? So if you're into it, I highly recommend play with it, have fun with it. I'm playing with trying to kick the transom around right now on a puff to try to bring it in, and just kind of dance on it as you're going over waves. It's an act of fun. You're dancing with the boat. Be one with the boat. Be active in there. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than just sitting there. The other thing that you want to do when you're trapped out is I think I'm getting into this. Yeah, wow. It's almost like I know what I want to talk about. Is you get into the posture. Posture is so key. When you're trapped out, when I trap out now, I don't go out like this, like if I'm on port tack with the tiller in hand and my sheet in here. I don't go out like that. I go out like that. As soon as I get out, I rotate my hips, and now I'm pointed forward. This is an aggressive posture. This is passive. This is like, oh yeah, we're going to go out and, it's Sunday. We're going to go to church. And maybe when we're done, we'll, drop by. When you rotate and face forward, this is like, I want that. I'm going after. Okay? And I'm leaning forward. My crew is right here, preferably below me so I can see. And what I do is I lean forward so I can look over her to see what's going on. All right? And now I've got this forward, aggressive, I want to win kind of posture, not this, hey, what's going on? All right? The same goes true downwind. Although I've adopted a sailing style now downwind where I've got my back to the course. I guess I can't say this, but I used to. And you want to be consciously presenting a fast approach to the course. The other thing is tiller grip. I'm a really good driver. I have no compunction saying that. I'm not the best. I get that. But I'm better than a lot of them. And the reason I am, I think, is because I have learned the importance of the grip on the tiller. And Johnny's a driver, and I'm I'm sure you'll counter that. You'll support this. You want the lightest possible grip on the tiller that you can imagine. I was always amazed. I'm a Seattle Mariner fan. Edgar Martinez isn't yet, but will be, a Hall of Fame designated hitter. This guy, he had incredible eyesight. He studied pitches and all that. And this guy these pitchers would throw it away from him, and he would go down there and stroke it for a double or a home run or something. The guy was just incredible. It never failed to amaze me how many times the bat would fly out of Edgar's hands into the stands or into the dugout. It was incredible. And it's because Edgar had such a light grip and he was relaxed. All right. Now, in a heavy breeze, you have a firmer grip. All right. But you want to have as light as you can. And the reason you want it is devil's in the details. You want to feel what's going on over those rudders. The rudders are your brake. If you're going slow, it's because probably of the rudders. It could be in some other things. But in the water, and you want to feel what's happening. That's why we lift one rudder up. I'll give you another little tip here. We all sail downwind. Most of us sail downwind with one rudder up, right? It's not for the wetted surface area, you guys. I used to think it was for the wetted surface area. It's not the wetted surface area. It's so that you can load all of the steering onto one rudder and feel the water flowing over that one rudder. And now, instead of your rudder adjustments, if this is center line, if you have both rudders in the water, you might only make that much of a rudder adjustment, let's just say. And with both rudders in. And now with with only one rudder in there, you might have to go out that much to make that same adjustment. Well, anybody who's been sailing like that knows that that's slow. The more you get your rudders off center line, the more you're breaking the boat. But here's the difference. Is after time, you will learn and feel the boat. And you will be making the adjustment a lot sooner. And now you'll be right back to there. And you've only got one rudder in the water breaking you and not two. Does that make sense? When you have two rudders in the water and they're offset by that much, it's like having one rudder this much. But now you have the opportunity to close that gap down to where you only have one rudder in the water and you're making minor adjustments because you're anticipating, you're feeling, you're doing all this stuff. Does that make sense? Jump in anytime, John. The other thing that I talked about never cleating. Oh, going back to the never cleating. As soon as I went to the never cleating, I stopped pitch pulling. You're talking to the king of pitch pull right here. I invented it. All right. And maybe I didn't invent it, but I definitely perfected it. And the reason I was pitch pulling all the time, I'd be out there in 20 knots and being kind of, I was always living close to the edge. Oh boy, this is fun. And as soon as that puff would hit, I'd be sitting there trying to uncleat my main. And by the time I'm doing this, we're in. All right. As soon as I stopped cleaning my main, as soon as that puff hits, boom, I'm instantly sheeting off. And I can't tell you how many times it saved my bacon. And I don't pitch pull anymore. I did a Skamako once this past year, but that's because my main blocks were all messed up. But not cleaning your main will save you tons downwind. Because A, you won't pitch pull. That's pretty fast. Not pitch pull. And because now you can play your main downwind too. I didn't talk about that. Kind of coming at this. I play the main upwind and downwind. I remember Emiliano down in Argentina said, Peter, in some broken English, goes, play your main. What do you mean, Emiliano? I've been doing and telling others, you just lock off your main and sail to 90 degrees of pair and have your main set out. No, you play your main. And what Emiliano said in his broken Spanish, and I really don't understand it, but it sort of makes sense, is he says, no, man, you want to break the wind off of the sails. You want to break it and reattach the breeze that's going over the sails. And by adjusting the sails constantly, you can achieve that. And so now, what I do is I grab the main sheet from in medium air or lighter from behind the main blocks, because I can't do it through the blocks. And you'll see me. I got my butt up against the boom, which isn't fast because I'm looking back, and I'm bending around. And now I just do this all the time. You will see me constantly working that. Am I fast? I'm faster, and I'm getting better because I'm practicing it. When you do anything initially, it takes a little while to get used to it. Because the other thing that happens, you guys, is let's say I'm sailing downwind and a puff hits, and let's say I am sailing downwind, and I've got my main is out here, wind's over here, 90 degrees apparent, and let's say I get a puff and I want to steer down here. All right? Well, what I do is I let out the main and I'm pulling on the tiller so that the boat will carve down. What happens is when I let out the main that much, I am unloading the rudders. If you know what I mean by loading and unloading, it means that the water doesn't have the same force on it, the speed. And so now my rudders, here's my rudders, but by unloading them, there's more of a turning moment and less of a braking moment. If that makes sense. If you don't know what I mean, I don't know if I can explain it. This is one of those things, well, I just do it. But it means that, it helps the boat turn without braking. So I will ease off, I'll just like that while I'm turning down, and then I bring it back on. And it's a game of inches. And I'm just gaining inches at a time. Okay?
I think what you're trying to say too is the boat will turn itself.
Yes.
Right? You don't have to
Yeah.
force the boat to go down. Easing the main out a little bit on the rudder, and the boat will steer down and fast instead of braking.
Excellent. Okay. And hopefully that's well said. Thanks. I know I want to say something like that.
So Jerry is asking a good question. So he says, is that because the jib's loading more?
Yes.
Yeah. When the puff hits, the boat wants to do something. It either wants to shoot forward, down, or up. And that's all dependent on, one, how your sails are trimmed, and then second, where your rudders are. And what generally will happen, and what Peter was saying, is when the puff hits, the first thing that happens is the rudder will load up. Because on a 16, now on this 18 might be a little different because of the dagger boards, but the 16, the boat wants to do something. Generally, it wants to steer down, but you'll be fighting it, holding. So as that rudder loads up with force, the jib will get the wind. It'll hit the wind, and it'll want to pull the boat down if you let the main out. If the main stays in, then the main's going to want to counteract the jib. It's going to bring you up. So it's a balance. So what you probably do in that situation is you don't have the crew necessarily trim the jib out right away in the puff if the telltales are reading correctly. Leave it in, but let the main out, and the boat will rotate down. It'll just turn itself.
Would that be the same on the roof?
Yeah, we're gonna have daggers down when the daggers are up anyhow. And we're gonna get into sailing. I hope we'll get into sailing with the sails during the starting sequence, because I've got a proven, really cakewalk starting method that uses the sails to help you start, and we'll get into that. But basically, yeah, Paul.
I just want to ask a question. We talked a lot about continually cleaning the mainsail, but what would you say about the crew moving out here?
So it's a good question, Paul. So for anybody watching the tape, I got Johnny Hogue here. I got Paul Carter, and these guys I'm chasing them all around the pond up here in the Pacific Northwest, or out on the national race course all the time, and they're very accomplished. And so Paul is saying, asking, and I know Paul knows the answer, but he wants me to cover. What's the crew doing in that situation? And typically, what happens to us when we're dealing with a pup is actually, it's a delayed reaction. The puppet comes on and we allow our boat speed to build, but it's only a fraction of it because these boats build speed so quickly because they're so wide. So usually it's almost an instantaneous thing. And then I just have my crew, she'll trim the sails, and usually she will also go out with them as the boat turns down. But initially, she might have to come in because as the boat builds speed, the apparent wind goes forward. Does that make sense? Because you're building speed, so the apparent wind goes forward, and that's why you're bearing off to come down. And so she'll, I don't know what she does, but I think she she'll come in and then let it back out. And I don't bring mine in so much on the puff because it's so instantaneous, and I'm usually just letting it out.
Upwind?
Oh, upwind, this was downwind. Upwind, usually the jib will stay locked. We will adjust. Last weekend we were up on a lake sailing. It was very puffy. We adjusted the jib upwind. We adjusted that whole weekend 3 or 4 times the whole weekend. I think. We usually leave it pretty set and just sail to it. We're not adjusting. But the main, I'm constantly adjusting. And there was a good comment that John made Saturday night that I used Sunday to advantage, and that is, when in doubt, let it out. And this is not in the double trap heavy stuff. Well, maybe so if you're going to go over. But this was in light and medium air. And, the tendency is like, man, if I'm sheeting in, we're going fast. So if I sheet in a little bit more, it makes sense that I would go faster. Doesn't work that way, all right? And you have to have leech tails to tell you, and that's a whole different story.
Well, is that just because you're oversheeting and spilling through, you're just dumping the wind out?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so.
Yeah. You want the boat to breathe, I think of Warner. Let the boat breathe, but and there's a balance in there. Well, yeah, you want to loosen it up so she's goosed and she wants to just jump out and not so bound up. Something that I don't think is talked about much is, well, where do you look? You're out there, you're a skipper or crew. For time purposes, I'm probably going to focus on just the skipper for now. You're out there and you're racing. Well, where do you look? I mean, well, I can guarantee you this. If you got off the beach and you found out that you're the slow boat and you're spending your whole day looking at your telltales and how you can make your boat go faster, you're not going to go very fast, all right? The time to do all that, I would recommend spending 10, 15 minutes, speed testing, going out there, seeing where your boat is. Once you get your boat dialed in, it is what it is for that particular race or that particular day or those conditions, and you're just going to have to live with it. But I have a bad habit, and I look at my leeward hull. I think it's from all those times flipping. No, please, not again. It's just incredible. We all have these bad habits. But what's going to happen is you want to look at the water. That's your primary area to look at. You want to look at waves. You want to steer. You're looking for flat water. Now, if I'm sailing on a lake and it's like today, there's probably not a lot to look at because it's flat out there on a lake today. So I'm saying that. I guess I'm saying that in salt water, in salt water, I'm looking at the water 60% of the time, maybe more than half, because I'm steering around it. And I used to think that you wanted to reduce your rudder movements because those are your brakes. In salt water especially, I'm watching these guys, these Olympic athletes on YouTube, and they are just moving their tail wherever they need to. You're looking for whatever will get you around, and you're steering around those hills and those valleys, and you're looking for flat water, upwind or downwind. There's times when downwind you want the steeper waves because you can surf on them. But unless you can surf, if you can't surf, you're looking for flat water. Because the boat will go faster in flat water than it will doing one of these things. Right? But if it's doing one of these things, you probably have a pretty good chance downwind of surfing. But otherwise, so in saltwater, yeah, about 60% in the water, maybe 20% of the time I'm looking at the sails, and then 20% of the time I'm looking at where the competition is. Okay? But you don't want to be looking at your sails all the time. You get into a rhythm of just looking out at the water, and then when you see a flat spot coming, you maybe take a look at your sails, make sure they're good, keep steering. Next flat spot, well, what's Johnny doing over there? What's Paul doing over there? You know, and then back to steering through the water and stuff like that. Keep your legs together, keep your crew together. You know, you don't need to trap out like this, all right? It's very stable, but you really don't. They should be about shoulder width apart. And if Laura and I have not gotten to the point yet, but we want to get to a point where she's tucking the leg, her rear leg behind my front leg, but we're not there yet.
Peter, Skamaka was a good example. Would you have a little bit wider stance in that type of weather where it's blowing really hard?
I might.
You get
So
a larger chop,
I might, yeah, a little bit of wave. I might go out and get a little bit out. Yeah.
so you don't have a tendency to feel like you're going to get thrown forward or backward or anything.
No, well, I do. If you watch my thrills, chills, and spills, I'm off the back end. So I do have that tendency. And so now what we're going to try to do in those situations is have Laura grab my life vest and hold on to the life vest. But that's going to be quite a bit for her because she's got the jib sheet to keep us from going back. But now she also has the traveler, so she'll probably end up having to drop that traveler and grab me.
Well, so she's got travel in right hand, jib in left hand, so she's really stable. Does she end up catching you at all in heavy chop? Like
She bumps me. Yeah.
That's stopping you from.
No, she bumps me sometimes off the boat. That's why we're trying to get her to hold on. It's all her fault.
That's that skipper attitude thing, though.
Oh.
Nicer, she wouldn't be bumping you off.
Well, and skipper attitude, I wouldn't be throwing her under the bus either. But I'm teasing on that.
There's a lot of factors that play into that, and one is Jennifer and I do a lot of the leg locking in the big breeze. So she'll come back and she'll tuck her leg behind my forward leg, and then with the two of us kind of pushing against each other, you get some stability that way. But secondly, if your crew's getting knocked back into you, you need to raise their trapeze height, right? And that's probably something you're going to get into. But we learned that at North Americans this year in Mexico. The top fast guys had all raised their trapezes up, and we were out in the first race, and we were way down low, getting knocked off the boat constantly. You know, and I looked at some of the top guys, and instantly we picked that up, that they're all lifting up. And they had all put double clips on their trapeze. We tried to raise ours, we slid right back down to the original spot over and over. So you may be getting into that, but that's something that if your crew's getting knocked back into the skipper, they're probably too low.
And I wasn't going to get into it because I passed over it and I intended to. Trapeze height, right. What John just mentioned. But also, we will raise our trapeze height when we think it's going to be a light air day. Because we don't need all that leverage, but we might be able to trap out when others can't. And that has its own advantages too. So the trapeze height is not something that is just a static deal either.
And that's way
Is that easy to adjust on the fly?
No.
Is there a
You have to do it between races.
Well, there is an adjustable trap.
I don't know if it's class legal.
I don't know if it's class legal.
I don't know if it's
On the
class
F-18s we do it, but I don't know if I've never done it on the 16.
No. Or an 18. This is all under boat speed while you're sailing or once you get out there. You want to evaluate what kind of day it is. You thought on the beach it was going to be this kind of a day. Is it? Do you have to make adjustments to what you thought? Talk about to your crew about it. start looking at, are the puffs starboard lifts or headers? Typically in the northern hemisphere, a puff will veer to the right, typically. But locale being what it is, don't take that as a gospel, all right? So you want to look, is it a lift or is it a header? How big are the lifts? Is there any timing to those lifts? Because that might be important at the start, you know? Well, they're coming in every 2 or 3 minutes, you know, and stuff like that. So you want to, if you can, find a sailing buddy, find somebody that's pretty comparable to you, and maybe go out in different ways. We did this in Puerto Penasco with Tommy K, with Coors, and you just go out there one day and you come back, well, which side was favored, that sort of thing. But you can also just do speed testing, you know, and make adjustments. Be creative, try things. Something that we have learned also is that in a big breeze, with a medium to heavy breeze, with a big chop, we will loosen our jib, and the bows do not dig in nearly as much. The boat floats over instead of getting pounded in there. Laura picked that one up in Fiji, and a huge benefit. So if you find your boat just constantly hitting those waves, loosen the jib off. Doesn't take much, inch and a half. And if you think that I'm kind of crazy, Jerry has footage of Kike Figueroa having his crew doing the same thing on the starboard ley line. But I think he was doing that. He had her doing that. It wasn't Carla, it was someone else crewing for him. I think she was actually doing it to unload. Laura will do this too. Before we get into the mark, a lot of times she will pop the cleat and then re-cleat it. Because what happens is the cleat just gets bound and bound and bound and bound. And then when it's time to go around the mark, there's high wind. Your apparent wind goes up. The wind speed goes up, being shown on the jib. And now it gets loaded up even more. And the crew's over there can't get it out. And the bows are doing one of these. The pucker factor's going up, you know? And so she will, when she feels like we've been on starboard ley line for a long time, she'll uncleat that jib and re-cleat it just to reset the cam so she knows she'll be able to release it when she goes